Welcome on into the Stroke Limit Reach podcast. I am your host, Nick, here with my co-host, Mike. And we have Josh back on the podcast today.
What's going on?
And we're talking about Week 1 preview and predictions. We're all going to give our score prediction and who we think is going to win, obviously. That being said, we're going to do a little bit of rapid fire here because we do have football on Thursday, Mike. We've got UNC versus Minnesota and North Dakota State versus Colorado. Let's start with the UNC because I think it's kind of interesting. UNC opened up as the dog on the road by 3 points, and it's now the favorite, I believe, by 2.5. So, interesting there. I can't believe they opened up as a dog, Mike. I think this North Carolina team is better in almost every position than Minnesota. Maybe Minnesota might edge them out on defense, but Minnesota does not have a good offense, so it's not going to look that way in this game, in my opinion.
No, and I know Minnesota, a lot of people were trying to be hopeful because I think they got a new coordinator or like a new quarterback this year that's supposed to be able to air it out and let them move the ball down the field, and I just don't really see it. This team, it's really just traditional with them. Their O-line is going to be okay. Their defense is going to be solid, but they just don't have anywhere near the talent level that this UNC team does. Even though they lost Drake May and a lot of their pieces last year to the draft, they were able to hit the transfer portal pretty well. Got a lot of the dudes from got a couple of guys from Texas A&M when they were all transferring out, including their new quarterback and tight end, the Johnson brothers. I'm struggling with their first receiver. But their first receiver is good, and then they got one of the best running backs in the game in Omarion Hampton. This is a team I'm really just not worried about. I upset when me and you first saw they were the underdogs for plus money line. I'm upset that I didn't take it because now it's minus, like you said, 1.5, 2.5, and it should be more.
Yeah, I mean, before we get into our predictions here, Josh, do you have anything you want to say about this game, or you want to go right into the predictions?
I mean, I mostly agree with Mikey here. I think North Carolina's just a way more talented team with a lot of big transfer pieces that they picked up, and I just don't think Minnesota's going to be that good this year. I just think it's going to be kind of interesting to see how North Carolina does with a new quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I still don't trust UNC's defense. So that being said, I have the final score for this game, UNC 32, Minnesota 24. I still think it'll be an 8-point game. I just don't see – I know UNC's defense is going to get better. They have a new coordinator, but still, I think it's going to be a little better. I don't think it's going to be night and day difference. So 32-24 for me, Mike. UNC wins.
Yeah, for the most part, I agree. I like that. I do have a little bit more faith in their defense this year. I do like their coordinator. I'm curious to see how much better they get, though, year one. So I think we'll see some improvement, but I don't know if it'll be a lot.
Okay, Josh, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you as well. I think North Carolina's defense will get a little bit better, but I still think it's going to be a little bit more higher scoring. I was probably going to have it as a little bit closer, a 24-21 North Carolina win.
Okay. Sorry for the viewers out there if the audio on Josh's end sucks. For some reason, he can't find his 17 different pairs of headphones that he has. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. North Dakota State versus versus Colorado. Personally, I'm excited to see Colorado play, and I'm also curious if Colorado really prepared well for this game, which I think they will, because Deion Sanders has talked about how good of a team North Dakota State is. But if for any reason, Mike, their good players overlook this game, they will get upset because this is one of the best teams in the FCS. So I think this could be an interesting game. I think the spread is kind of scary, being at 9.5. So, but ultimately, I do expect a lot of points in this game.
I mean, I truly do like this spread here. I think Colorado knows who they're playing. Like, they've already been pretty vocal that they're upset. This is the team that they have to go up against because they know it's harder than they would like it to be. But I truly think they're just going to go out. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are going to absolutely just try to dominate the game early. And I see them covering the spread. I'm personally not taking it just because I don't trust Colorado. I still have to see how their defense plays out. But they're going to perform, I think, offensively as good as they can.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, though. I mean, North Dakota State does have very physical front seven. So I do think it's going to be interesting to see if they try to establish the run at all or if Colorado tries to air it out. Because I understand they're going to have a huge mismatch, receivers to DBs, but I would think they're going to try to run the ball a little bit.
I think to start the game off, they're going to do nothing but air it out. I think they're going to want to try to make this game out of the question early and then test and see how their run game looks against these guys. They know where their strong is. There's no reason to play around and let these dudes hang in. Just air it out, play to your strength, put the game out of the way early, and then let your running and defense kind of just close it out.
Well, I'll go ahead and do my score prediction. I think the game will be Colorado 45, North Dakota State 34-ish, 34, 32, somewhere around there. I do think that Colorado's defense is still shit. I don't care what they say. I mean, you can't go from dead last year to all of a sudden top 60. So I'm going maybe 20 spots better. They finish around 100 defense this year. So, yeah, I still expect North Dakota State to score a lot. I expect actually North Dakota State's run game to get going and stay the majority of the game. So I'm curious to see how it unfolds. But, yep, Mike, what do you got?
42-21 or 42-24 Colorado.
Josh?
So I've been thinking about it a lot. I've really wanted to take North Dakota State for about a week or two now, but I think they're going to lose by around 3 points. I think it's going to be 41-38. I just don't believe in Colorado that much.
Got a scary one. Okay, I like it. Let's go ahead and get into Saturday's slate. I think this is one of the best week one college football slate we've had in a long time, and games that can kind of go either way. That being said, let's get into a game where I don't think can go either way. This is the noon game on ABC. It is going to be the Georgia Bulldogs versus the Clemson Tigers for the Aflac kickoff game in Atlanta. Personally, I think the first thing I want to talk about is I respect Clemson as a team. I think Clemson is going to be better this year than last year. So that being said, just take that, Clemson fans, when I start talking about how this game is going to unfold. Because personally, I don't think it's a knock on Clemson as much as Georgia's just better than you. I mean, Clemson has two very talented freshman receivers that I think are going to get some burn in this game. But again, I don't know how much effect that's going to have going against a very good defensive backfield with Georgia. They have the number one safety in the country. But they really need a receiver this season to step up in a big way. They have not had a 1,000-yard receiver since 2020. Maybe one of these freshmen can be that in a couple years to come, or maybe it can be some of the guys they have returning last year. I know they have two good receivers returning, but still, someone's got to step up and help out Cade Klubnik in this game. I mean, if you're Clemson and you want this game to be close, your offense is going to have to perform. And Cade Klubnik has to avoid the big turnovers because it seems like last year when he turned the ball over, it was in a big way, a wrong time to get a turnover, a big interception going into score, fumble going into score, it's not a turnover. I guess it'd be turnover on downs, Mike, but you remember this. They pull the ball against Miami on a designed run play, and you get tackled, where a lot of people think if he stays and hands it off, that they score.
Yeah, because Dabo was pissed after that and went on the press conference and aired it out and pretty much put it all on Cade Klubnik for losing the game, for going against what his play call was.
Yep, and that being said, Cade Klubnik's stats weren't that bad last year, but I think it's all sugar-coated, and I'll get into that right now. Last year, versus Power 4 opponents, Mike, I don't care what his stats say. I pulled these right off of PFF. Against Power 4 opponents last season, he had 12 touchdowns versus 8 interceptions. That is not winning football. You are not winning any big game when you only have 4 more touchdowns and interceptions. That being said, we could see a big step forward by Cade Klubnik this season. I'm not ruling that out. Garrett Riley is a very good offensive coordinator. I think that for Clemson to have any success on offense, Dabo needs to release the keys, hand them over to Garrett Riley, and let him run his offense. Because all we've seen is like the putt-putt version of Garrett Riley's offense. Hand the man the driver, send it down the fairway, and just let him do his thing. This guy can score loads of points if you let him. So I'm curious to see that dynamic as well. Regarding the last thing on Clemson's offense, I think the glaring weakness, I think the biggest mismatch in week 1 is going to be Georgia's front 7 versus Clemson's offensive line. I think Georgia's front 7 is going to live in the backfield. That being said, if Clemson wants any chance to keep the game close, they're going to have to find a way to run the ball. And looking on paper, looking at last season, I don't know how Clemson's going to establish this run game against Georgia's front 7. I think they're going to have a lot of perimeter shots, try to get Georgia's defense tired, start gashing it in the middle, maybe throw some deep passes, play actions, soften Georgia up, stretch them vertically. But yeah, I think that is just the biggest glaring mismatch of week 1 will be that. You got anything on Clemson's offense, Mike?
No, I mean, I feel like the last couple of years, especially with Cade Klubnik, they never really changed the play style from when they had DJU. I didn't really see a big difference. It was a heavy power run type scheme. And I'm hoping now with Garrett Riley they do allow Cade Klubnik to open it up because I do think he is better than what his stats has shown. But it's just something we have to see before I give them the credit for it. And I don't think opening up against Georgia is the best thing for them when they're trying to test out a new style of offense.
Well, we don't even know if it's going to be a new style of offense because Garrett Riley was the offense coordinator last year. It's just, will Dabo allow Garrett Riley to call his offense?
Yeah.
That's the wild thing. I mean, that just goes back to the arrogance of Dabo, in my opinion.
Yeah, because they need to do something. They don't have the personnel to be able to run the power run that they used to have or at least want to have. And he just needs to understand he can trust his quarterbacks. Like, just post Deshaun Watson, post Trevor Lawrence, it seems like Dabo doesn't trust his QBs to make plays. So if they can adjust and change that, I think this team could be going in the right direction. But, I mean, against Georgia, it's just difficult.
Josh,
there's no easy way about it.
Josh, anything on Clemson's offense or Georgia's defense here?
I think it'll be kind of interesting to see because, as Mike was saying, Clemson they used to love to run the ball a lot, but they lost pretty much their main backer. And Georgia's D-line was very good last year, but there was a game or two where they let up around 150, 130 rushing yards to some bigger teams that kind of lost us the game. In the Alabama game, they let up a lot of yards. And in the Missouri game, I think it was like 185 rushing yards. So if Clemson could establish that, I don't think they will. But if they do, it could be a lot closer than a lot of people are thinking it will be.
Yeah, I mean, to build on what you're saying, I think if Clemson wants any chance to keep the game close, they almost have to do what Auburn did in the run scheme last year. A lot of quarterback runs, like reads, get Cade Klubnik to use his legs, because he can use his legs, and do a lot of jet sweeps and perimeter. And then that will open up the inside of Georgia's defense. And like you said, in all of those games where Georgia gave up a lot of rushing yards, that's what teams excelled at. So that is an interesting thing you brought up. So I'm just excited for this game. I'm excited to see Georgia going forward. Switching over to Georgia's offense, in my opinion, this is Georgia's best offense they've had under Kirby Smart. I think it's going to be the most explosive offense they have under Kirby Smart. This is a Georgia offensive line who, in my opinion, is the best in the country. They returned 4 or 5 starters. 2 of them could have went to the draft last year and got picked in the first 2 rounds. They decided to return back after the season last year getting screwed out of playing in the playoff to try to redeem themselves. Tate Ratledge, the right guard, is the 2023 All-American. Ernest Green at left tackle is a freshman All-American. A crazy stat for viewers at home is Clemson's basically going to be trotting out against the fucking Baltimore Ravens offensive line here. Their average height and weight is 6'7", 340 pounds across the board. I don't care what Clemson says. They have not seen an offensive line like this in the past couple of years.
It was a bad comparison because the Ravens' O-line's going to be pretty bad this year, but
I'm talking about of the past, Mike. Of the past. Well, first off, you could be the worst offensive line in the NFL, and you're the best offensive line in college.
yeah,
So,
no.
True.
I think that was a bad take by you. The Baltimore Ravens probably beat Georgia by 30. So,
Yeah, but, metaphors
Anyway.
and similes and it's not correct.
from the guy that has no notes in front of him, I love it. Okay,
either.
Josh, anything on Georgia's offense?
I think it'll be interesting to see with the couple new transfer players we have to see how ETN is in there, if it's going to be a one-back set or if we're going to run 2 to 3. I'm really excited to see how we use London Humphrey, and I'm really excited to see how we use that big Miami wide receiver we got, because in the spring game, he was just jumping over people and mossing people. So I think it'll be really cool to see how we kind of put them into the game plan.
Yep, I agree. And building on the offense, I want to talk about Clemson's defense a little bit to go back onto Georgia's offense. But Clemson's front seven is very young. They have 2 sophomore edge rushers. One of them I know is very talented. I understand. He's very talented. But the fact that you have 2 sophomore edge rushers are going to be playing against an offensive line that they've never seen in their career. Same with the 2 outside linebackers. They are both sophomores. So, in my opinion, if Clemson cannot stop Georgia's running attack without adding an extra defender into the box, it will be a long day, and Georgia will roll them. Because the minute that they roll down another defender in the box, in my opinion, and get out of too high, and they start running a lot of man coverage, Georgia's quarterback is going to fucking pick them apart. He might throw for 350 yards. So I think that is an imperative that Clemson is able to stop Georgia's run without adding extra defenders in the box. Another thing on that is once they get Georgia in third and medium to long, they have to get a pass rush. Are these guys going to be able to get a pass rush against Georgia's offensive line? Because if they can't, Carson Beck, again, is just going to stand in the pocket and absolutely throw dimes the entire game. And if they start, I know Clemson loves doing this in the past, but in my opinion, if they don't disguise blitzes or disguise coverages, Clemson is really known to just walk up 6 or 7 guys to the line of scrimmage and then stunt and hope they get pressure. In my opinion, you do this against a veteran quarterback, he is going to know where the ball is going before the ball is snapped. So I think they really are going to have to cook something up on defense if they can't get pressure with their front 4. Either way, I just can't think of a way for Clemson to stay in the game on defense against Georgia's offense. Anything on Clemson's defense, y'all, before we get to predictions? I know they're good defense. Trust me.
I think their defense will still be good. I think they have one of the best middle linebackers in college football. All around, I think they're solid. It's just at some point defense does bend. Defense does break. If your offense can't help give you pressure or relieve pressure off your defense, it keeps giving them bad playing field, it's just not going to look good.
Yeah, and this to me, I'll go ahead and get in my prediction, but this to me looks like or feels like almost when Georgia played Bo Nix in his first year at Oregon, where it's like there was hype coming into the game. There was about a 13.5-point spread, and Georgia beat the brakes off them. This is kind of what that's feeling like to me. So ultimately, I have Georgia 31-13. That is my prediction. And again, I still think Clemson could win 9 games, possibly 10. But this team is really good in Georgia. And it's in Atlanta. So just a lot of things going against them. Josh, what's your prediction?
So I actually have the exact same score as you, but I think it's going to be very, very close at halftime. I just think if Georgia's run game is working really well, the third and fourth quarter, they're going to run the ball for 5, 6, 7 yards carry, and they can start putting up points very quickly like that.
See, personally, I actually have like the opposite of what you said, but with the same score. I think Georgia jumps out to a big lead right off the bat, and they start to throttle it back. Clemson maybe scores 10 points before half to get to stay maybe down by 2 touchdowns going into half, and then Georgia just kind of walks to the finish line to get to that 31-13. I just think the talent gap is way too large. Mike?
16-27, Georgia. I think there's going to be a real dead period in the first quarter where offense is just slow. Second quarter, I think Georgia starts to pick it up, really makes separation in the third, and Clemson scores again in the fourth quarter to kind of close the gap, cover the spread.
See, is it crazy to me to think that Georgia's coming out and scoring the first drive on offense, like with ease? I think I just smell that coming. Like I see Georgia 5-play drive touchdown. Like I just think it's going to be such a fast punch in the mouth to set the tone that Clemson better hope that they're on defense first, because I think if Clemson goes out on offense and goes 3 and out, then it's going to be ugly quick. I just really love Georgia's offense this season. That being said, let's go ahead and get into the other noon game. This is kind of a bonus game because not a lot of people are talking about it, but Mike and I here, we've got some takes on it. And we'll briefly touch on this game. But it is Penn State at West Virginia. It's going to be on Fox, and it's going to be at noon. Personally, Mike, do you want to run with this real quick? Because I know you are really high on West Virginia this season.
Yeah, I mean, so this team, they had a slow start last year, absolutely ended it on fire. I think they won, 5 of 6?
5 of the last 6.
5 of the last 6. They just absolutely kept pace, built it up. Their offense has the potential to be heavily explosive. Their quarterback he was looking at one point last season to get benched, ended up absolutely turning around, and has just been on fire ever since.
Yep, potential dark horse.
Yeah, he's a dual-threat quarterback that absolutely can light the top off of a team. And if Penn State's not careful, and I do think because no one's talking about it, like everyone's just looking at this game as a Penn State easy win, easy cover, I think Penn State could get punched in the mouth, and they can get punched in the mouth early.
Yep.
I think me and you were talking about it. Like, this is reminiscent to me of the Georgia Tech Florida State. Everyone kind of just Florida State's covering, like it's whatever. And
except West Virginia is a dark horse to win their conference, so it's like big difference between them and Georgia Tech. But I agree, no one's talking about it. No, I haven't heard anyone talk about this game, which is insane to me. Especially when you think of, like Mike said, they've finished the season so hot, won 5 of the last 6, and they returned 75% of production on both sides of the ball, which is insane to think about. And if you're West Virginia, you got nothing to lose. You're almost a double-digit dog at home playing a Penn State team that has to make the playoff, in my opinion. If they don't make the playoff now that it's 12 teams, if they don't threaten to try to make the Big Ten championship game now that there's no divisions, their coach might get on the hot seat. So I think there's a ton of pressure. And in my opinion, if Penn State wants to win this game, we have to see a new Drew Atler. I'm so tired of listening to these podcasts, these other shows, talking about this guy didn't play that bad last season. What the fuck are we talking about? No. Did anyone watch the Michigan game? I understand that people look at his stats and like, oh, he wasn't that bad. Yeah, that's because Penn State is always a fucking pretender, in my opinion. They go out there and they beat teams 65-7, and then they come back and they lose to Michigan, scoring, 10 points on offense? Mm-hmm. Throwing for, 80 yards or some stupid shit like that? So you cannot convince me that this guy is going to lead you to big wins this season. That being said, Penn State could still win this game. But when you look offensively, Drew Atler needs help on offense. Their 2 best receivers left. Transfer portal, gone. They bring in a big receiver from Ohio State. But in my opinion, for West Virginia, Mike, if you get him in 3rd and long, why not just bracket him? Like, who else is getting the ball?
I mean, to be honest, this receiver he's living off the fact that he went to Ohio State. He wouldn't play this year. He would be deep in their rotation if he stayed, which is why he transferred out. And he's never done anything to impress me. He's been an average receiver at best that's just lived off the hype of the OSU label, and he wasn't able to develop into the Marvin Harrison, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilsons, and he just got left behind.
Yeah.
So this is not a dude that I'm worried about. He's not a game changer in any way, shape, or form. Like, Penn State's offense is going to live off the run game like it's been the last.
They have a great
Their
running back.
O-line is very above average to good. But their wide receivers aren't going to help Drew Allar out. He's going to give his best J.J. McCarthy impression, hand the ball off 37 times.
Well, first off, I think that's a huge disrespect to J.J. McCarthy because J.J. McCarthy could make the throws in big games.
Yeah.
This guy, in my opinion, we watched the spring game. He was sailing balls way over the heads of receivers.
Penn State is budget 2023 Michigan. That is their identity. They are the same team as Michigan on a budget.
I would say I'd say they're more of a shittier Iowa. Like, when it comes to
No,
good
because their
defense.
offense is still better. That's disrespectful to Penn State's offense.
I personally
it's-
don't think in a big game this season that they're going to score more than 20 points. Like, I don't see it happening. Their offense is that bad. They have no receivers.
Well, this is a team against, like, bad teams that they put up 30, 40 points.
Huh?
Penn State's a team that against bad teams, they can put up 30, 40 points.
I agree. I said big games.
Yeah, that's the issue. Is when they do the big games, they're scoring 15, 10.
Yeah, you can't win games like that. And not to mention it, Penn State has a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator coming into this game. So, wait a minute, Nick. Let's back this up. The team that is almost a double-digit favorite coming into play, a possibly 9-10 win football team in West Virginia, has a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, no wide receiver production, returning pretty much, a good running back, and they're almost a double-digit favorite. I can't put it together. I mean, I personally think the spread should be like 2.5. I don't know where they're getting this 9.5, 8.5 that it's sitting around, especially when if I was right now and I had to put my head on a chopping block and they're like, pick a quarterback between Drew Atler and Garrett Green, I'm fucking taking Garrett Green 10 out of 10 times. The guy is way better. He's very shifty. He's mobile. He can extend plays. It's just everything about him is better. Everyone's just stuck on this 5-star Drew Atler that doesn't done anything against big games. I honestly think that Garrett Green, his mobility is going to be the key to their success on offense. Because don't get me wrong, Penn State's defense is stout.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the best in the Big Ten. But Mike, you can say it. Josh, you can say it. There is nothing more demoralizing on defense than stopping a team, getting them to about a 3rd and 6, covering everybody in the back end, and a quarterback scrambling for a first down. There's nothing more demoralizing. Now you're like, shit, I thought we were getting off the field. I'm tired. Now we got to get right back at it and do it again. I think you're going to see that a lot. Personally, I think you could see like 40 rushing yards, 50 rushing yards out of this guy. I mean, not including the sack yardage. Like, we're not doing that shit. But I'm saying 40 or 50 rushing yards out of him. But when you flip it around and Penn State is on offense, I think if West Virginia has any chance to keep this game close, they have to keep Penn State under 4 yards a carry. Last year, they let Penn State average like 4.5 yards a carry. If that's the case, Penn State covers the spread and some. You'll see a score similar to last year of like a 30-something to 15. It will be ugly. So West Virginia's got to find a way to stop that run. And when they stop the run, personally, I think they should not bring pressure on 3rd downs, disguise coverages, and lure Drew Atler into turnovers. I think if you run man coverage against him and just let him go, throw it one-on-one coverage, their receivers will still make a play. Anything can happen. So
Disguise
I think
your zones, make him fucking decipher what he's looking at and make him make the mistakes.
Exactly. And personally, I think if they can limit Penn State to big plays, make them score on like 12, 13 play drives when they go to score, West Virginia will be right in this game because it's going to burn so much time off the clock with Penn State's style of offense. West Virginia, in my opinion, can score an offense very fast. So I just like this. But the more I look at it, Mike, I know I was on the fence, and I know you've always been ride or die West Virginia for this game. But let's just talk about the ingredients of an upset here. New coordinators. A mobile quarterback for West Virginia.
Week 1 on the road.
Yeah, week 1 on the road. Ran for 700 yards last year. That's insane for a quarterback. Lost their top big play production on offense, and no one's giving you a chance at home. That place is going to be rocking. And, Mike, I like West Virginia here. I personally like West Virginia here. I think it's going to be really fucking close. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think it'll turn into a low-scoring game. But I have ultimately West Virginia winning 23-17.
Yeah, if you want safe money, in my opinion, taking plus 9.5 and taking the under, I think, is a lock. But we don't fuck with safe money.
But what do you have for your production or your prediction, Mike?
Score?
Yep, score prediction.
27-21, West Virginia.
Okay. Josh, what do you got?
I have 24-21 Penn State.
Okay, not crazy at all.
Coward.
Not crazy at all. I was on the fence. I think either way, it's decided less than 7 points in this game. Let's go on, in my opinion, to arguably the biggest game of the week, and that is Miami at Florida. Mike, before I go into some stats and some talks here, I'm just going to talk a little bit about Florida's offseason, and then I'll let you run with Miami, okay? That being said, I just want to talk about it. Florida's offseason noise, okay? I haven't heard much out of Florida in their camp. And in my opinion, that's the best thing that they could possibly have going for them right now. Just sit back, get all this bulletin board material from all these people talking about how tough their schedule is, giving them no chance coming into the game. I think these are all recipes for Florida to come out and try to make this a ball game, to keep it close, to pull off the upset. I think a lot of people are looking too much into the schedule and going, this team could win 4 games, instead of going, you put this team in anyone else's schedule and they could win 8. So I do think this is a good football team, and I think their schedule makes them look like a bad football team. The Swamp is going to be fucking insane. Anyone who wants to experience an amazing college football environment, go to the Swamp and watch a big football game. It is one of the hardest places to play in the country. It is going to be hotter than hell. I feel bad for the fans going to the game. But this, in my opinion, the Swamp is such a great name for their stadium, because as an Auburn fan, watching a highly ranked Auburn team go in there and lose to Florida, the Swamp, in my opinion, is a stadium that leans on you, and you slowly start to sink in the mud the more and more you let Florida stay in the game. The more mistakes happen, the more weird stuff starts to go awry in the game. So I think if Florida wants to win this game, and on the flip side, if Miami wants to beat their ass, they've got to get up, and they got to get up fast. They have got to take the wind out of the sails of the fans in the game. I want to see an opening touchdown drive for Miami. I want to see Florida go 3 and out. I want to see Miami drive down the field, kick a field goal, get up 10-0. All of a sudden, that environment goes from super deafening, loud, and leading on the opposing team to everyone in that stadium, including the players, go, oh, shit, this is going to be a long season. Go ahead, Mike.
So, I mean, for this game, I don't love any matchup for Florida's favor. I truly don't. I think our O-line is significantly better for their front seven to be able to handle. Their best player, Sapp, is going to be going up against our strongest part of our O-line and our tackles, one being the true sophomore Maui Noah, and then redshirt junior Jalen Rivers. Both of them, I think, will be future NFL prospects. And I just don't think he's good enough to consistently provide pressure that can disrupt our game. I think we're coming in here with a mindset of we don't need to pass the ball to win this game. I think Cam Ward will have less than 20 passing attempts. And between Damian Martinez and Mark Fletcher, they're going to have 35 carries each. Or not each, but 35 carries total. And we're just going to do a power run game down their throats the entire game and do some play action dump offs. Their corners, their number one corner is solid. He's Devin Moore. But the issue is I think we have 3 future NFL wide receivers. Xavier Restrepo, who could have got drafted. He probably would have been a late-round pick last year, came back for his final year. Miami's leading reception leader for the career. Jacoby George, who is an insane, explosive, deep threat potential. He was very limited last year with Van Dyke, who was able to give him the ball, but couldn't, similar to what we saw with DJU, couldn't hit a guy in stride to save his life. So that was a big issue there. And then we got Sam Brown from Houston, who is another fast twitch, insane, can turn a 4-yard hitch into a 30-yard run down the sideline. So I think our receivers are too fast, too spread out, that when we do pass the ball, they will find a way open, and they will be able to get yards after the catch. That is going to be a huge part here is we don't have to throw it deep. We can throw underneath and let the receivers make plays down the field. When it comes to defense, their offensive line, I don't think is going to be very good against Ruben Bain and Tyler Barron from Tennessee that we picked up. And we'll be rotating in and out our D-line the entire time because behind those two, we have 3 different 5-stars sitting behind them, ready to go, that have all gotten playing time. Our biggest question mark for Miami's defense is going to be the safety room, but I don't think we have to worry too much about deep shots. I think they're going to try a couple early, but
all sorts of disrespect.
I was telling you, a play-action deep shot, I don't think their O-line will be able to give Graham Mertz protection to make a good shot downfield.
All it takes is like 3 seconds.
Yeah,
They'll find it eventually.
He's going to get 3 seconds.
I mean, I know that Mike is high on Miami, and we have this bet going here where Mike's going to sing the fight song on the podcast if he loses, dressed up in Florida Gators gear. I will eat the world's hottest chip and continue to try to do the podcast. But that being said, before I get into why I think, Florida has a chance here, Josh, what do you got?
Honestly, as much as I do not like Florida, for some reason, this team in a week 1 big matchup always it's just their best game of the year.
It is.
I mean, 2 years ago they played the Pac-12 champions and they won. Last year they played Utah again and hardly won. For some reason. Yeah, I mean, just for some reason, this team week 1 is a terrifying matchup, especially when it's in the swamp.
Yeah, in the swamp, nothing to lose. Their fans are retarded. They think that they're going to win the Natty. I mean, we have 2 buddies that think that Florida could win 9 games. So, trust me, this is a 9-win football team. This is an 8-win football team, but your schedule's the problem. But that being said, how good does Graham Mertz have to be to win this game? I think is the key matchup, in my opinion. Florida's offensive line against probably one of the best D-lines in the country is going to be something to watch. If you're a real football fan, that might decide the game on this side of the ball for both teams.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's on Graham Mertz. I think it's on the O-line. I think Graham Mertz is going to do what he does, and he's going to be fine.
Well, this is what I'm talking about with how good does he have to be. In my opinion, Florida must be multiple on offense. They can't get one-dimensional. They have to get production. They got to get production on the perimeter. I think that's one chance that Florida has on offense to get big plays. They actually have pretty good receivers. I think Eugene Wilson outside is going to be very good, and I think that is going to threaten, which I think the only hole on Miami is their secondary. So I think if you get the perimeter game going, start to get Ruben Bain and these guys inside to run sideline to sideline, keep it close, maybe you can start getting some production in the run game. But I think if they have any chance, they've got to stay in short down and distances. Short down and distance will be huge. It will make you multiple. Miami won't be able to key that, send the dogs, send the pass rush. They're going to throw the ball. So I think that's huge. Miami already touched, Mike already touched on Miami's D-line. There's nothing more for me to talk here. They're great. Okay? They're great. In my opinion, it's the best part of their team. Okay? Another thing to look at, though, is Miami's offensive line. I understand they're good. I understand their coach is Cristobal. This is, in my opinion, the first time where we're starting to see a Cristobal offense and defensive line. But I think people are kidding themselves with Florida's front seven. This is one of the most underrated front sevens in the SEC, in my opinion. Last year, a lot of people seem to forget they were pretty stout in the box. Okay? Obviously, they start to get a lot of yards against them when the game gets out of hand towards the end. But they're pretty stout in the box. Even watching Georgia last year playing Florida, the air attack was what was destroying Florida. Okay? I think their secondary gotten better. I think if they can limit Miami's offense to less than 4 yards a carry, they have a really good chance on offense. If Florida is going to score points against this defensive line, like I said, They're going to have to be multiple. I think they're going to need to attack Miami in the play-action game. Graham Mertz, in my opinion, is one of the best play-action quarterbacks in the country. He's very good at it. He's very good at tucking the ball, looking away, picking his head up, knowing where the ball is going. He's a very smart quarterback. In my opinion, he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. He's kind of slept on. Like I said, perimeter plays are a must. Bubble screens, outside zone, jet sweeps. Get these guys running sideline to sideline. They're going to have to stretch them vertically. Take your deep shots early and often. If you get in a second manageable, deep shot. I don't care. What's the worst that can happen? They pick it off, and it's like a punt. But they got to take the deep shots. So I think they have to test Miami's secondary. I think that's why it's so crucial to get in short down and distance. Because if you throw it and test Miami's secondary on first down and you don't get it, now you're second and long, and you're pretty much punting on this drive. So that being said, one of the keys, I think, or one of the things to watch, I'm interested, is all of Miami's transfers. First time playing together on the road in the toughest environment they will be all year. I think because of that and Cam Ward and all these good transfers coming in, I think if this game is played anywhere else in the world or even in the Swamp, just not week 1, Miami would win this game. That being said, I have Florida pulling off the week 1 upset and winning 24-20 and holding Miami's offense in check. Josh, what do you have before we go to Mike's crazy prediction?
Yeah, I mean, this Florida team's going to play out of their minds. It's a week 1 thing. That's just something they do for some reason. This team could win 4 games all year. I think this will be the game that they win as well. I got them winning 28-21. The Gators are chomping.
Mike?
31-20, Miami.
Okay. We'll have to wait and see. Everyone remember, Mike and I's bet. We'll get that going if that's the case. That being said, another great matchup is going to be Notre Dame at Texas A&M. College Station is going to be absolutely insane. College game days there. They have nothing to lose. They have new hope. They don't have to worry about how is Jimbo Fisher going to fuck this game up. So I'm really excited to see this matchup. I think another crucial thing to watch in this game coming up is going to be Texas A&M's D-line versus Notre Dame's O-line. I know we talked about it when we were doing our predictions on Notre Dame, but Notre Dame's O-line is a little banged up. They lost 2 players to the draft. Texas A&M has one of the best defensive lines in the country. So if you are a true fan of the game, I'm about to tell you a matchup that you're going to want to watch. Purdue transfer and edge rusher for A&M is Nick Scorton. Nick Scorton led the Big Ten in sacks last year. He's going against a second-string tackle. This has got to be the matchup you got to be absolutely worried if you're Notre Dame. That being said, though, I'm really excited to see how Notre Dame's new offensive coordinator from LSU, who led the most potent offense in the country last year, is going to tackle that. He's a very talented play caller. In my opinion, if they want to negate the advantage in this area, they're going to have to use him for read keys, use him as RPO reads and early downs to eliminate his impact and get the yardage you need to get into short yardages. Because let me tell you, Notre Dame has a leg up outside. The receivers are very good. Texas A&M's DBs are good, but not as good as the talent Notre Dame has out wide. So I think if Notre Dame can get in short yardage downs, they are going to absolutely score and score a lot. So that is the key, in my opinion, to Notre Dame's offensive production. And again, Riley Leonard's a dog. If he's 100% healthy, like they're telling us coming into game 1, his ability to extend plays is massive. Go back and watch the tape of him play Clemson last year. How many times were they down and out in a drive, especially the big one that I remember, Mike, is Riley Leonard towards the end of the game. Clemson needs a stop to get the ball back with like 3 minutes to go. Everyone's covered. It's 3rd and 13. Riley Leonard scrambles for 35 yards to ice the game. So I think his ability to move around in the pocket and use his legs is going to be huge. Like I said, their new offensive coordinator, I think you're going to see a totally different offense for Notre Dame. It's going to be high-flying, in my opinion. Going over to the other side of the ball, though, Connor Wegman, very talented quarterback, everyone says. I haven't seen it yet. Some of the games that he was in last year was very good. But as an Auburn fan, I can't get the first half of that game out of my mind. That was arguably the biggest game he's ever played in his life, and he did nothing. People forget he has been hurt his entire career. This will be his biggest game of his life up to this point. And in my opinion, you can't put the entire game on his shoulders. He will need help. Their running back is out for the season. That being said, next man up, Le'Veon Moss is very talented. The run game has to work. 3.5 to 4 yards a carry. They need it. They need that average bad because people are sleeping on Notre Dame's defense. Notre Dame's defense is the most veteran defense in the country. I'm about to give you a wild stat, Mike. 7 of their 11 starters are graduate players, fifth-year players. All have played for Notre Dame up to this point. So they know Marcus Freeman's defense, and they know it very well. So if you think that Texas A&M's crowd is going to have Notre Dame's defense forgetting their assignment, you can forget about that. No pun intended. Because this team is very veteran on the defensive side of the ball. A&M has to stretch Notre Dame vertically because I think Notre Dame has the advantage in the box. So if they can get Wegman lubed up, a couple short passes in the first drive, and then take the top off and exploit the back end of Notre Dame's defense, that's their key to success on offense, in my opinion. But they have to get big plays. Jimbo Fisher's offense last season, the death of them was every drive that they scored had to be like 12 plays. If that is the case this game with new coaches, you can hang it up. Notre Dame's winning by a lot. Before I get into my predictions, that's my breakdown of the game. Mike, what do you got?
I mean, I think this is going to be a very close-knit game. I'm curious to see how Notre Dame's offense looks. I'm very big on Riley Leonard. I think he's one of the sleeper quarterbacks in this class. And I think he'll be a very good NFL QB. So I'm excited to watch this one. Weigman, I do think he's also very good as well, but he's just been battling injuries his entire career. And I think this is a very underrated Texas A&M team. So I'm giving them the edge.
Aren't they ranked? Are they ranked? Or are they one of the first out?
Who?
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, I think they're ranked 24 or 25.
Yeah, some stupid shit like that, right? Because I agree, they're a talented team, but I mean, that's ballsy to put them in the top 25.
I just think their biggest handcuff has been their head coach. With him now gone, I do really like the outlook for this team. Now, of course, it has to happen first.
I agree. It's not a rebuild for them. It's a reboot.
Yeah.
They've always had talent.
Yeah, talent was never the issue.
Yeah.
So I do think they retained a lot of talent where a lot of people were saying they were dismantled in the offseason, but when you actually look at it, they really weren't. They gained just as much talent as they lost.
They did gain talent, but they lost huge production on defense, which is what scares me.
They did, but we'll just have to see. I think this will be a very close game. Riley Leonard, his injury still concerns me. I don't know if he's 100% yet. I think throwing the ball will be no problem. I'm worried about his legs, which was a very good part of his game last year. So we have to see how he does moving around in the pocket and then scrambling out. The O-line for Notre Dame is a big concern. I know you already touched up on it. And then Texas A&M, I feel good about this team. I think they're going to really impress some people and be a dark horse to upset a couple teams. And I think this could be one of their upsets.
Josh, what do you got?
I mean, if you look back at last season, Notre Dame is really one play and one bad coaching mistake away from beating Ohio State and being right up in there in the playoff kind of picture.
Yep, I agree.
Going into College Station week one, just like how Miami's going into the swamp, is a very, very hard thing to do to try to walk out of there. So it's going to be a very interesting thing to see on how their offense can handle all that crowd noise.
Yeah.
I don't think the defense will be really affected much.
I agree, and in my opinion, when it comes to noise and being in a big game, you could not have a better quarterback, veteran, play caller back there for you. But I agree, it's just everything else. Often the young offensive line is what scares me as well. Being on the road in a big environment, how many penalties are you going to get in big moments? But ultimately, I was high, and I was picking Texas A&M to win this game. But the more I look at it, if Notre Dame just comes out there and plays Notre Dame football and comes out there with the mentality that we are a playoff team and no one's going to stand in the way, I think they win the game. If they come in lackadaisical, kind of like Florida State did this weekend, going, we're better than Texas A&M, they're losing. But to me, I just think this Notre Dame team is very good. I think they could not have a better pickup at quarterback. Their defense is veteran going into this road game. I like this is going to be an absolute dogfight. You could not have picked a better nightcap for week 1 on Saturday, but I got Texas A&M winning in a close one. I got Notre Dame winning in a close one, 27-24. Michael.
I got them 24-21, Texas A&M. I think it'll be a very defensive battle both ways. I want to see how it ends up turning out with the run game for Texas A&M, even with the running back down. But I think Texas A&M does end up pulling it through. I think Notre Dame underestimates his team and struggles early.
Josh.
I think it's going to be a Notre Dame win. It's going to be 28-21. I just think their quarterback is just so good. Even though it's, like I just said, in a big environment, I think he just pulls through for the team. And it's a nice early season win.
Yeah, I agree. I think the turnover margin in this game as well is going to be something to watch because I don't think you're going to see many turnovers or big mistakes committed on by
Riley Leonard.
Riley Leonard, thanks, Mike, compared to Connor Wegman in his first big game. That being said, let's go over. It's week 1, which means no NFL, which means the entire country is going to be watch LSU versus USC. An interesting thing that I heard yesterday on the Paul Feinbaum show was he was interviewing Brian Kelly. Say what you want about Brian Kelly, but the mentality that he brings to his team is what you need to win championships. Paul Feinbaum asked him a question about them last year winning 10 games and what is their goal for the season. And Brian Kelly said, we're not here to win 10 games. We're here to win national championships, which I agree. And that is the mindset that you have to have as the LSU head coach. There's no reason you can't make the playoff every year. That being said, let's get into how this game's going to be won and lost, in my opinion, Mike. Defenses. 2 poor defenses last year. That being said, both of them have new DCs. So we'll see what changes for both of these teams. And I think that's going to be very interesting on who schemes better going into this game against 2 quarterbacks. To touch on the defense, though, personally, Josh, you could probably touch on this with me. I don't think LSU giving up all the points they did last year was really a talent issue. LSU has the talent. They have arguably one of the best outside linebackers in the country with Harold Perkins. So that's where I kind of give LSU the leg up on defense coming into this game because personally I think it was all scheme. Where USC, I think, is mostly all scheme, but you don't have the guys on defense like LSU has, in my opinion, especially in the front 7. I think if they release Harold Perkins and let this man rush the passer like he did in the first season, he'll get 2-3 sacks. It'd be insane. I want to see that from him again. That is what NFL scouts want to see. They got to release this man. Going over.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say, they kind of held him back last year.
Yeah.
I don't know if they switched his position or anything.
No,
but
it was just like a new
so
defensive scheme going into the 3-4, where that's what you want with him because he's outside backer. Walk him up, he blitzes a lot, great on the perimeter, makes all sorts of tackles. But it's like they almost backed him up and never let him come downhill. He was always a coverage backer because of how fast he is. He's one of the fastest guys in the teams. But it's like, in my opinion, when your defense is giving up 40 points a game, why not just fucking send him every play? He's your best edge rusher. So I agree. They held him back, And I'm just glad to see that the NFL scouts did not hold that against him because this guy is an amazing talent, and I'm hoping they release him. Going over to the absolute shootout we're going to see on offense. 2 new quarterbacks. USC's quarterback had a great bowl game.
That's all we saw.
Yep. Garrett Nussmeier with LSU had a great bowl game. So you've got 2 guys coming in with very limited snaps. The only thing I would say with Garrett Nussmeier that gives him a leg up on USC's quarterback is he's a veteran. He's waited his turn to play. He sat behind 2 years of quarterbacks. So he knows what they want to do on offense. Yes, there'll be a new offensive scheme. They lost their coordinator. I think that it's going to be huge to see what their offense looks like because of that. But I give Garrett Nussmeier the leg up. I think you're going to see a lot less mistakes by him in this game compared to USC's quarterback. That being said, though, both teams are going to have to establish a run game. I think you've got to take the pressure off your quarterbacks because I don't know about you, Mike, but I know we're both not quarterbacks. But if I walk out there and I tell you, hey, you need to score 45 points to win this game, how much fucking pressure does that put on you as a quarterback? So anything they can do to take the pressure off of them will be huge. And again, that's where I give LSU the leg up. I think LSU will be or have a way easier chance to establish the run game just because of USC's defense compared to USC establishing the run game on that SEC front 7 that they're not used to seeing, which they're going to get a fucking dose of this year in the Big Ten. So that's ultimately what I think about this game. I think LSU gets the leg up here, but before I give my prediction, you guys got anything?
Yeah, with USC, I'm very intrigued to see them because this offseason, you saw Garrett Riley really make a shift in his priorities. Wasn't a very heavy offensive priority.
Lincoln Riley.
Sorry, did I say Garrett Riley?
Yep.
Yeah, fucked me up.
Lincoln
Riley.
Talking about him, so.
They focused heavy in the transfer portal on trying to get defensive guys. They focused recruiting trying to get defensive guys. They're trying to get this defense boosted up, and we think we saw that a lot with their defense coordinator hire that you saw. Yep. They're trying to give him more of a handle on the team.
He was the thorn in Oklahoma's side the entire time there. He's had this DC with him for like 7 years, and he's fucking terrible. So I do think that he finally did the right thing.
Yeah, and I think he finally realized it too because we saw a shift. Like, in my opinion, USC's offense, outside of the potential great of Miller Moss, right? Miller Moss?
Yes, yep, and he's an absolute star talent. But people remember, this is his first game.
Yeah. Outside of him and Zachariah Branch, there's not really a piece of this offense I love. Their offensive line definitely took a hit. Their other wide receivers never really saw too much playing time in the last couple years. They are just kind of like next man up, and I just didn't love the little bit I saw from them. But when you look at the defensive side, they ended up pulling in a lot of transfers to try to help them out. I think their secondary is actually very good. But that interior line and the linebackers is still going to be their big issue where I think LSU is going to thrive. LSU's offensive line is very good. They have early first-round pick at left tackle. Their other tackle is probably going to be another NFL player. Interior line's not bad. But then when you come to Nussmeier, who I know you're huge on, I don't know a lot about him, so I'm curious to see how he plays.
He's more of like I want to say more of like a Joe Burrow than a Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
He's more of the stand in the pocket and deliver the ball to their star receivers.
Yeah.
And
he's got targets in C.J. Daniels and Kyron Lacy to throw the ball to, who has been good sharing reps with 2 former first-round picks, Brian Thomas and fucking Malik Neighbors. So I think this is just a reload of talent that LSU had in their depth. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the defense, I'm curious again, like we've already talked about the change in defensive coordinators and schemes. I do think a big part of moving Perkins to the inside, and he's still labeled as the interior linebacker and not an edge rusher, is because of his size. Even though it's his biggest skill set is pass rush, he is very undersized for that position. So maybe they're trying to develop him into the middle linebacker that he eventually will be in the NFL. But I do agree. I think his best skill set right now is his pass rush. So I'm curious to see what they do. Because, I mean, the dude's only 6'1", 220.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think he's
small.
going to play like a nickel back. And the NFL, but I think a lot of people see him and are like, okay, we could pack weight on him.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. Inside, he's just not the guy. I just hope
he
they
struggles in
release him.
coverage, and he excels at going after the quarterback.
I mean, he's great as a flats player. Like, he dominates in the flats.
So I'm curious to see how this defense looks. I think they just got the muscle up front to force this USC team to pass the ball, and I don't know what their options really are outside of Zachariah Branch. So I think this will be a high-scoring game, and I'm curious, what is the over-under, like 60?
Something like that, yeah. I think you hammer the over.
Yeah.
But, Josh, what do you have before we give our predictions?
I mean, it's just, if you look at it every single year, every single Lincoln Riley team is a great offense and just a horrible defense. So, like we were talking about earlier with the new defensive coordinator, I'm kind of excited to see if that changes because every year, I mean, they made the playoffs and everything like that, and it was just their defense giving up 50, 60 points a game. So it's going to be exciting to see if they can, if, you know, all these offseason changes actually change the team.
Yep, I agree. But that being said, with LSU, I think, having the better chance to turn their defense around compared to USC, just to be an okay defense this year, and LSU's ability to establish the run game, which they had a great run game last year, ultimately I think that sets LSU apart. I think they covered the spread and some. I think it's a high-scoring game, but I've got LSU 48-34, 14 points.
Yeah, I think LSU like 45, USC 38.
Josh?
Yeah, I got LSU 42 and USC 28.
I agree. I think they're the better team. I think USC is about to get a dose of big boy football with big offensive defensive lines this season. That being said, it's that time of the year, folks. Best bets. Woo! Josh, I don't know if you brought any best bets in, but this is our favorite part of the show here. We got Hammer.
I always have.
So, just so you know, Hammer, whatever you want it to be, usually it's a minus money, right? Hot take is got to be plus money. A dog has to be plus 200 and above. Okay? You can do parlays, by the way, just so you know. That being said, let's fucking go. My hammer is the dogs. I don't see a way that Clemson keeps the game close, and I think everyone should absolutely hammer Georgia minus 13.5. I know Mike and I were having many heart attacks halfway through this week, or last week rather, when they were adjusting the spread on Hard Rock from 14.5 down to 13.5, 14.5 down to 13.5. And let me tell you, that 1 point could be the difference in this spread. That being said, 13.5. Give me Georgia. Hammer it, minus 110. Mike, what do you got for hammer?
Mine's Thursday night game. We already spoke about it to start off the show. UNC money line over Minnesota. Once the underdog, which I'm upset I didn't take advantage of.
Yeah, that sucks.
But now that UNC's favored by like 1.5 points, I'm taking the money line minus 120.
I love it. I love it. Josh.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of took mine. You knew I was going to go with.
That's fine.
It's
That's fine.
the dogs
Bring in the
all way.
love.
Yep, I always take the dogs. Minus 13.5. You love to say it.
Yep. Minus 110 again for his bet. We have the same hammer. My hot take. If you're going to give me, I think the number 6, I think there's 6 or 8, can't remember, team in the country on the road at plus money, Notre Dame we're talking about here. Everything we just talked about in our prediction. I think it's going to be a close dogfight, but the fact that you're giving me plus 125 for them, I have to take it. I was surprised that they were the underdog. I really was. I thought that they would be the minus 1.5, minus 2.5 team, kind of like what we're seeing with Miami and Florida. But plus money, I'm taking it. That's my hot take. Notre Dame money line plus 125. Mike.
Well, you just spoke about my next one. It's Miami versus Florida. The spread currently for that game is minus 2.5 in Miami's favor. I am flexing.
Oh, geez, Josh, hear the shit?
Rolling up the sleeves a little bit. Minus 6.5 Miami plus 145.
Oh my God.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Could be a sad day for Mike.
You come right back at Mike. I say everybody just takes the plus money Florida Gators at plus 120, just to hurt his feelings.
Real bad bet.
Not a bad pick there, Josh. Not a bad pick there. My dog is a parlay that folks, take me in with you. This could happen, in my opinion. Georgia, minus 13.5. Parlayed, same game, under 49.5. That is plus 275. I think that Georgia's defense is going to hold Clemson to 13 points or less, and I think Georgia will then take their foot a little bit off the gas. Clemson's defense is still pretty good, and I think they score about 35 points, and we're winning, folks. 49.5. Lock it up. UGA minus 13.5, parlayed with the under of 49.5, plus 275 for my dog, Mike.
Another one we already spoke about, number 8, Penn State versus West Virginia at West Virginia. I have been speaking it all summer. I'm going to keep speaking it into existence now. It's finally here. West Virginia money line plus 260. I don't think you can't not take it.
Let's go. Country roads, take me home. Josh, what do you got?
So I also had somebody with West Virginia. I was going to have them at plus 8.5, but parlay that and put North Dakota State in there at plus 9.5. We'll get your parlay to plus 265.
Okay, possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
I think it's a safer.
Yeah, you scared the fuck out of me. I thought you were going North Dakota State money line. And I was like, dude, this guy just threw a plus
that was just
1,000 odd out here.
They're not too bad.
No, they're a great
plus
FCS
1,000.
team. So go ahead and say it one more time.
It's going to be West Virginia plus, I think it's 8.5, and North Dakota State plus 9.5 for a parlay of plus 265.
Okay. So you heard it here, folks. That's my hammer, hot take, and dog for all three of us. And make sure you tune in next week, because the first thing I'm doing on Saturday, if I lose, is ordering that hot chip. And I will apologize to Mike and his Miami Hurricanes. And I just want you to know,
Apology
Mike,
not accepted.
I want you to know, I'm not disrespecting Miami. They're in my Final Four. Not Final Four, but they're locked in as a top 4 seed at the beginning. I think they're a great football team by just on the road. And if that's the case and I lose, I'll eat the hottest chip. And if Mike loses, he is going to wear a Florida Gators jersey. We're going to film it and put it up on Twitter so you guys can see it. And he is going to sing the fight song live on air. So make sure you tune in next week. Make sure you take the bets with us. If you're listening to us on Thursday, some of us have bets like you heard Josh and Mike on these Thursday night games. So make sure you either fade us or take it and let's ride, boys. Don't get discouraged. I know we were in the red all off season, but we're betting against baseball and shit.
Fuck baseball, dude.
on.
Baseball.
Yeah. So that being said, we're about to go green. We're about to go green heavy. So get on the train with us now, and we are going to the moon. We're posting a lot on TikTok and a lot on YouTube. So make sure you guys give us a follow in both those spots at Stroke Limit Reach. TikTok is at S Limit Reach. But until next time, peace.
You're